When you think of trains in Montreal, you probably think about the Canadian National Railway, with their iconic red, white, and black locomotives. But what if I told you there were two more colorful locomotives at their yards around town for a brief moment in 2023? Hi, I'm the Adirondack Sub Rail fan, and today we'll be taking a look at the story of BNSF 2262 and 2302. BNSF 2262 and 2302 started off on the St. Louis San Francisco Railroad, also known as Frisco. 2262 was built by EMD in June of 1973 as SLSF GP38-2 number 407, and 2302 was built in January 1975 as SLSF 447. The EMD GP38-2 was built as a general-purpose diesel locomotive, being a better, reworked version of the EMD GP38. This type of locomotive is equipped with a 16-cylinder EMD 645E engine producing 2,000 horsepower. It is also equipped with 4 axles, and it has a relatively small size, making this specific type of locomotive very versatile and utilitarian. This made it very popular amongst Class 1 railroads at the time. Now, back to both our units. Sometime in late 1980, after the Frisco was absorbed into the Burlington Northern, SLSF 407 was renumbered to BN 2262, and SLSF 447 was renumbered to BN 2302. Both being put to service on mainline local trains throughout the 1980s and 90s. Nothing notable happened to these units during that period, so much so that there aren't much photos circulating of them on the internet during their BN service days. Then, these units would receive another change of ownership in September 1995, with the Burlington Northern merging with the Atchison Topeka and the Santa Fe to form the BNSF. The two units would change from BN reporting marks to BNSF reporting marks. BNSF 2262 was rapidly painted into the iconic Heritage 1 paint scheme, whilst 2302 stayed in the Cascade Green for a few years before getting the same treatment. The two Geeps would operate for the BNSF until around the mid-2010s, where they would both sadly be thrown into storage with many of their sisters. The units looked like they were nearing the end of their service years, but strangely enough, the duo would find a second chance on a different railroad. In 2023, after multiple years of storage, BNSF 2262, along with their sister 2302, would leave the BNSF deadlines in the Midwest to work on Canadian National local and yard jobs in Eastern Canada. The locomotives would more notably be assigned to CN Locals 596 and 500 out of the Pointe Saint-Charles yard in Montreal, working in the Old Port of Montreal and Southwark Yard in Longueuil, Quebec. The units would also occasionally be assigned to other trains around Greater Montreal, serving local industries and doing transfer jobs between different yards. BNSF 2262 and 2302 instantly became railfan favorites, with many railfans going to see the unique locomotives around the city, including myself. I caught BNSF 2302 in Pointe Saint-Charles Yard, albeit with my old camcorder and no tripod, switching with CN GP38-2, number 4724, as shown here. I also caught BNSF 2262 in Southwark Yard in Longueuil, Quebec, sitting alone waiting for its next assignment in the yard. My good friend, Sorel Rails, also caught 2262 on CN 526 in Boucherville, Quebec, as shown here. However, BNSF 2302 would leave Montreal earlier than expected and was assigned on other work trains elsewhere on the Canadian National System. BNSF 2262, however, would come back in late 2023 for another assignment, my old camcorder shot in Southwark I showed earlier being just that. These units were apparently due to go back to the BNSF in the following months of early 2024, but surprisingly, the unit stayed on the CN network. With CN having to lease multiple general-purpose locomotives for their shortage of power during the mid-2020s, they purchased a good amount of locomotives, including ex-GATX GP38-2s and even ex-Union Pacific GP38Ns. BNSF 2302 would sadly leave Canada and be sent back to storage on the BNSF. Unexpectedly, however, BNSF 2262 would come back to Montreal with a few changes. That's right, CN purchased the unit, being renumbered to CN 4958 and once again being assigned out of different yards around Montreal. The unit was patched and still technically wore the Heritage 1 scheme, although being very highly modified. 4958 would be seen working around Montreal with its new look during 2025. I was lucky enough to catch it a few times during that time, and so did my friend, Sorel Rails. Although, the unit wouldn't keep this patched look for too long, being repainted in late 2025 to the standard CN scheme. Although, very strangely, with a bigger nose logo than usual. Hey, very big thanks for watching. I highly appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Special thanks to Sorel Rails for helping me make this video possible. I highly suggest subscribing to him. As always, have a good one.